Hello everyone, this is Charlie from the Bloomingdale Public Library. Today we're going to be discussing slides, and specifically how to save them into a digital form. To do that, we're going to be using the Ion Scanner, which is something that you'll find at our archiving station, the first computer on the left in our computer lab. Before you get started, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need your slides, and you're going to need a way to save them. We recommend that you get an SD card or SDHC, which stands for high capacity. If you use an SDXC, which stands for extreme capacity, I believe, you might have trouble. Also, if you use a mini SD, the kind that are really small and would use something this size as an adapter, may not work either. So get an SD or an SDHC card. They probably run about $5 at Walmart or Walgreens or Target. And that will make things a lot easier. There is a way to save directly from the machine to the computer that it's connected to, but it's extremely tedious, and so I won't be covering that in this course. If you bring a flash drive, we could probably lend you an SD card to convert over, but again, I'd recommend just bringing your own SD card. The reason it uses an SD card is because the machine itself is basically a digital camera, and it's usable for photos, slides, and negatives, and which you do basically will require light either in front of or behind whatever you're doing. So once you have your slides and your method of saving, you come to the computer desk, like the computer aid desk where you'll usually find a staff member, and ask them for a slide holder, and that's just something like this. It's a plastic holder. It's got a hinge and holds together with magnets. And with that, you are all set to get started. So, when you sit down, you don't need the computer it's connected to at all. It's completely self-contained as far as the process goes. You'd hit this little power button here to turn on. And it might be a little hard to see. I apologize for that. The screen brightness is extremely low. You'll notice when it came up, it gave a little indication that there was no SD card. Like I said before, it will save directly to the machine, but it will save only 10 to 15 pictures at a time. And again, converting that to the computer 10 to 15 pictures at a time and then going back and deleting everything is extremely tedious. So I recommend using the SD card. And before you even get started, you'd place it into the side here where it's got a little indicator on how you're supposed to orient it. It clicks right in, it gives you a little message, and then it's going to restart itself. And that's fine. If you put the card in before you turn it on, you won't get that message. Okay, so it did not restart like it said. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the power button to turn it back on. And once it boots up, we'll get to the menu here. It starts off at the capture option. There's a few other I want to discuss first before we start capturing images though. First thing we need to look at is the sliders. The top one will indicate where the light is, again, either in front of or behind whatever you're capturing. And then the bottom one, which will change the software images. So if you have it set to photo scanner instead of film scanner, you're going to have different options. So we want to be with the film scanner, so the light goes behind instead of in front of the slides. And then this slide down here, we want to be on film scanner to match the light. So I'll go ahead and do that. And that's just a reminder to make sure that the top slider matches the bottom. And with that all said and done, let's go ahead and look at our options. So capture is where we'll go when we start to take our pictures. Playback is where you would go to review the pictures that you've already taken. Film, this will give us our film options. Let's go ahead and hit enter. It starts off with slides, which is what we want. So it will show light through the image and will give us a representation of what we see. If we hit left, we get the negatives. So if you were to use negative film, it will correct the color. So you'll see what is intended instead of seeing the negative colors. I mean, you could take pictures of the negative colors if you like, but most people would opt not to do that. If you go to the right, that's black and white. So even if you have a color slide, it will take a black and white image, which maybe you might want to do. But we're going to leave this for slides right now. Hit enter. Anytime you make a menu selection, it's going to take us back to the capture screen. And there's nothing in there right now, so we kind of see a light shining through, and it's probably not something we want to take a picture of. So I'm going to hit mode again and review a few more of our menu options. The next one after film is resolution. I'm going to hit enter here. We have options of 5 megapixels and 10 megapixels. These are both extremely large. I know we're used to seeing 10, 15, 20 megapixel options these days. But if you think of your standard 1080p screen, that's about 2 megapixels. So if you figure 5 megapixels, that's more than twice the size. 10 megapixels is even larger. So the reason you might want 10 megapixels is if you were doing printing at a large size. Otherwise, if you were just planning on saving this to a computer or a disk or a flash drive or uploading it to the cloud, 5 megapixels is probably fine. Something else to consider is the memory. A 5 megapixel picture, I think, is about a meg, whereas 10 megapixels will take about 1.7 megs, and I'm speaking in megabytes. So we'll leave it at 5 megapixels for now. Hit enter. Again, it brings us to the capture screen. I'm going to hit mode, and we'll flow through the rest of these options just so you know that they're there. Language, if you wanted to use the machine in a different language, this would be what you would select. USB MSDC, this would be how you would port the photos from the machine to the computer if you were not using an SD card. Like I said, it's so cumbersome, I'm not even going to go over it. And then we're back to capture. So with that, we've got our settings all done. Now what we got to do is put the slides in the slide holder. I'm just going to open it up, and then one at a time, just put them in. Close it up. Like I said, it's magnet held, but there's still a little bit of a snap to it. And with that, you'll notice that one end has a white arrow. You would use that end to push into the right side where there's also an arrow. And as you push it in, you'll feel it kind of click into place. So we're going to hit enter on capture. And there we go. Once you have it lined up, you can hit enter, and that'll give you a few options for color correction. I don't recommend doing this on here. The screen that you're looking at has extremely low brightness, so it's not a very accurate depiction of what you're actually seeing. Still, if you were comfortable using the RGB, you can go right ahead. Otherwise, I'd recommend go ahead, save everything, and then the Archive Station computer actually has the Adobe suite attached to it. So you could put everything onto an SD card, then you could use the SD card with an SD card reader to go ahead and look at the images and do whatever color correcting you want to do with Photoshop. So we'll go ahead and hit scan to get out of that. And now to take a picture, you hit scan. I know it's kind of hard to see, but there's a couple of options now. We can hit save. If you hit right, you can cancel. If you hit right again, it says home. That'll take us back to the menu. You typically just want to hit enter to save. So I'll go ahead and do that. You'll see an hourglass, and you're good. Go ahead and push it on to the next one. Scan, enter. Next one. Scan, enter. Scan, enter. Pull it out, open it up, take your slides out. Put it in your next batch. Close it up. Put it into the right. And again, scan, enter, shift it, scan, enter, and that's your basic workflow. Scan, enter, scan, enter. Pretty simple and straightforward, I think. Once you're all done, go ahead and turn it off with the power button. And then if you push in on the SD card, it'll pop out. And now you would use this with a card reader. We've got some in the lab. Plug the card reader into a computer, and then you could use it just like a flash drive. Open up the files to look at them, click and drag them to other folders, or you could even open them up to print, just like you would anything else. So that's all I have. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to come into the lab. We can always help you with any sort of setups, talk you through anything, answer any questions you might have. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all have a good one.